Welcome to the reading of President James Madison. James Madison is the fourth president of America. He was president from March 4th, 1809 to March 4th, 1817. Previous president would have been Thomas Jefferson, and now we have James Madison. So, the presidency of James Madison began on March 4th, 1809 when James Madison was inaugurated as president of the United States, and it ended March 4th, 1817. Madison was the fourth United States president. He took office after defeating Federalist Charles Cotesworth Pinckney decisively. So he won his election quite easily in the 1808 presidential election. He was reelected 4 years later, defeating DeWitt Clinton in the 1812 election. His presidency was dominated by the War of 1812 with Britain. His presidency is mostly remembered due to the War of 1812. Okay. Madison's presidency was dominated by the effects of the ongoing Napoleonic Wars, which were mostly happening in Europe. Initially, American merchants had benefited from the war in Europe since it allowed them to increase their shipping activities. But both the British and the French began attacking American ships in an attempt to cut off trade. In response to persistent British attacks on American shipping and the British practice of impressment, forcing foreign sailors to be in your military navy, the United States declared war on Great Britain, beginning the War of 1812. The war was quite honestly a mess, and the United States neither had a strong army nor a strong financial system, and the United States failed to conquer Canada during this war. In 1814, the British entered Washington and set the entire White House ablaze, as well as the Capitol. They burned down the White House. However, the United States did win several notable naval victories, so we did quite well at sea, which was very different from the Revolutionary War, and we crushed the resistance of British allied Native Americans in the West. Shortly after the American triumph at the Battle of New Orleans, technically after a peace treaty was in the works and a ceasefire had been called, the war ended with the ratification of the Treaty of Ghent, in which neither party really made any major concessions. Despite the lack of gains in the war, the timing of the treaty convinced many Americans that the United States had won a great victory in the war, and Madison's popularity grew. The Federalist Party collapsed as a national party in the aftermath of the war, which they had strongly opposed. Madison entered office intending to continue the limited government legacy of his Democratic Republican predecessor, Thomas Jefferson. However, in the aftermath of the war, Madison favored higher tariffs, increased military spending, and the establishment of the Second Bank in the United States. Despite opposition from strict constructionism would be the idea that you always follow the Constitution to the letter of the law, like John Randolph, much of Madison's post-war agenda was enacted. It happened. Madison left the office highly popular because he won a war, and his chosen successor, James Monroe, was elected with very little opposition. So this is James Madison. He was our fourth president. He was president during the War of 1812, in which we didn't actually win much, but he got a lot of popularity out of beating the British a second time. So thank you, and I hope you're doing well.